Hello, everybody, and welcome to the fourth edition of the Festival of Romany Film Academia. This festival will run from the 19th to the 23rd of November, and for the first time will be completely online. I'm going to be your host for this Q&A with our two directors. My name's Lisa Smith, and I had the pleasure of being a jury member this year for the Academia Film Festival. And I'm also a producer based in England, but currently based in Berlin. And we're streaming now direct to you from the legendary club SO36. I'd first like to very, very warmly welcome the two directors that we have with us today. First of all, Charles Newland, who is director of the short film The Takings of Charlie Lee, and also Vilma Kartaliska, who is the director of My Gypsy Road. Can I ask you both where you're based?
Yep, I'm based in Nottingham in the UK.
Where are you
And
based, Vilma?
I'm based in Sofia, Bulgaria.
Lovely. So over the next 15 minutes, we're going to be having the opportunity to ask our directors questions, but we'll also be monitoring the live stream coming through on the YouTube and Facebook pages. So we encourage the audience to please put forward your questions, and we'll try to answer as many as possible. So I also actually want to take this opportunity to mention that we will be doing our jury awards on Monday, and we have the opportunity to present awards for the best feature and best short, but we also have the Audience Choice Award. And when you're watching your films online, our audience, you'll be able to rate each film afterwards, and we strongly encourage you to do this, because this means then we will be able to present our Audience Award choice on Monday as well to you all. So first, Charles, I want to come to you and talk a little bit about the film The Takings of Charlie Lee. I found it was a really powerful and emotive short, and I recognized that it was really quite striking in that it was filmed in black and white, and it was also shot on the beach. I wanted to ask you about your thinking behind the decision to present it in that way.
Well, the black and white was an aesthetic decision because of sort of the context of the poem that Damian is reciting. He's talking about a time that doesn't really sort of exist anymore with travellers, and it's a heartfelt performance of it. And I thought just the stark black and white against the sea, it just added that extra sort of air to it that I think really suited the actual piece and the film itself. It was basically an aesthetic decision, sort of to create the mood, to reflect the words that Damien was saying.
Mm-hmm. It was really powerful. And it also, obviously, you just touched on that, but it touched on the kind of historic anti-Gypsyism that existed, and I suppose exists still in some way, about life on the road for Romany-Gypsies in a UK context. And I wanted to ask you about, did that influence your motivations for taking part in this project and directing it?
Yeah, absolutely, because the words of the poem are talking about a time that doesn't exist anymore. And a lot of people tend to look at those times of sort of gypsies and travellers in Great Britain through rose-tinted lenses. That there's a nostalgia to it, but it was also a terribly hard time for the people living that way. They were living cold on the side of a road. It was a very hard life, and dealing with loss and all that kind of stuff. The life expectancy of travellers in the sort of days gone by was about 51 years old. So to me, it's an interesting thing for a young person who is a gypsy traveller in Great Britain, which is me, and also Damien, who wrote and performed the poem, to be talking about a time where it was hard and it was a difficult life. And it's very easy, like I say, to sort of drench the old time in nostalgia, that it was all good and it was such a better time in the past, when it wasn't. By and large, for a lot of people, it was shit. And that's what we wanted to portray in the poem, that, yeah, people lived, they had good lives, but they had hard lives as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that completely resonates with me because often, like you said, it's that image of the bow-top wagon in the sun or like postcard picturesque. But this film really highlights what that brutal reality actually was.
Yeah.
And it really comes across. Thank you. I next want to move to Vilma actually, and ask you some questions.
Yes.
So the film that you directed, My Gypsy Road, I found it was very inspiring. It was very motivational. And for those of you who've seen it, it showed the path of the first Roma actress to officially graduate in Bulgaria. And it showed actually how she empowered young people through her traveling theatre production, My Gypsy Wheels. And her personality as the lead protagonist was so charismatic and such a relatable story. And I noticed you not only directed the documentary, but you helped produce and you also worked on the script. So my question was to you, how did you meet Natalia? And you obviously had a really strong desire and motivation to tell this story. So what really triggered you to want to bring this story, to bring Natalia's story to the world?
Well, Natalia is a very good friend of mine. We met 5, 6 years ago when I produced her theater performance, Gypsy Wheels. That was the first of this kind in Bulgaria. It's in Bulgarian and Roma language at the same time. So it's bilingual, and I was able to see how what impact it had on people, both on Bulgarians and Roma people in Bulgaria, and I felt inspired myself to make people think more of the good example, because unfortunately in Bulgaria, Roma people are usually connected with bad examples. When you listen to the news, you hear some pretty scary stuff. And I wanted to change this. I think that they deserve to have different kind of image in front of the society, because there are people like Natalia, and she's not the only one, who are trying to help their society to be better integrated in Bulgarian society. And I really felt the urge to show people that there are such how to say people that are full of light, and they're going and they light the way not only for themselves but also for the ones that follow. And I really wanted to show this. And we're still very good friends with her. At the moment we're working on a second spectacle with her, and I'm glad that she allowed me to tell her story to the world, not only to people in Bulgaria.
Well, we look forward to the next one, that's for sure. I think both films have this commonality in that they really have the community that they represent at the forefront of that, you know, through Natalia's eyes and her perspective and her struggles, and then Charles with your film, The Takings of Charlie Lee, Damian, who wrote that original poem, was at the forefront of that. So they both have that duality in that they are setting the tone and the narrative about their circumstances, which is really beautiful. I also wanted to ask you, Vilma, about the process and a little bit about how you decided what to include, or which footage not to include, I suppose, and how this process came about. Because I saw that there's some quite intimate scenes with Natalia, with her family, and with her friends. And there was one quite emotional scene that got me actually and really resonated, was the scene where she came back and she told her family that she'd been accepted into this prestigious acting school, but she needed €310 to enroll for that semester the next day. And it really highlighted the determination of her family to really encourage her and support her to pursue her dreams. So yeah, I was just really interested to hear a little bit about how that process took place, and how you went about selecting those scenes.
We had uh, a lot of material. That's the truth. And to be honest, I didn't expect that at the end we'll have that many hours of material. And in one moment, especially at the beginning, I felt lost in it because I wanted to put so many things that looked great, and they gave little pieces of her portrait, different pieces, because we had a lot of people around her that love her, and I wanted to show a little bit of everything. And in one moment, I realized that it's going to become really one big soup of things if we don't, how to say, narrow the topics in a way. And I'm really thankful to my editor, Yvette Panda. That was my, how to say, she was my rock there. And we both together, we started cleaning the material to refine it little by little until we got this construction at the end. um, I think we left, the main idea was to show the road, like it the title says, my gypsy road. We showed the road, and we showed all the things around the road, how she started with her family, and that her family is some of the best people I know. They're unbelievable. They're really good. They're very, they hold to each other in a great way and help each other in a great way. And I have rarely seen such good family. And so around the story of how she started, how she developed as an actress, and where at the end how she got on stage with her first monospectacle. Uh, this was the backbone of the film, and I'm really pleased that we were able to get to this construction. I think it says the most meaningful things from everything that we had.
Hmm. Absolutely, it almost was highlighting to wider society, that Romani people are diverse, but at the same time, it had like this internal story as well. And one particular, I think the scene that I talked about earlier on is how she talked about the importance of family being behind her and supporting her to pursue her dreams, and how I think she said that is fundamental to the building blocks of a young person to be able to have that. So I think it sent a really strong message as well to Romani families. And her success, I suppose she says, is credit to the support of her mother and father. I'm really interested to find out what projects that you're both working on. I know, Vilma, you've mentioned that a follow-up to this one, but I want to come to you, Charles, first and ask you about anything that you've got in the pipeline at the moment.
I'm currently working on a film with someone called Lisa Smith, and that's going well at the minute.
Working at Traveller's Times.
Yeah, she's okay to work with, so that's going good. And then outside of that, I've just finished a large project with an organisation in Brighton called FFT, and we've released 25 short films this year,
Wow, that's a
interviewing
lot.
people all over Britain about activism. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so
And
outside of
was,
that, no, there's not. Just apart from the project I'm working on with you, that should take us up to Christmas, and then start planning again after that.
would you like to say a couple of words about that
About the project we're working on?
for the audience?
Say that again.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd like to talk about it.
Yeah, me and Lisa in the capacity as a producer and I as a director, are currently making a film about female representation within the media for gypsies and travellers. And we've spoken to people who are based in LA, in the UK, all over the world basically, and hopefully We are looking at a release for December time.
December
Yeah,
14th, I think.
but December 14th. So keep your eyes open for that one. And I'm not going to tell anybody else anything else because I'll spoil it. So.
All right, thanks, Charles. And Vilma, then, what about you?
At the moment, I'm in post-production of a film called Angela, and it's about a girl that has quite severe form of paralysis, but still she insists on working in theater. She's dancing, she's writing books and love poetry, and this is another, how to say, inspiring story about the fact that when deep down inside you want to make art, it doesn't matter your condition, physical condition, it doesn't matter your mental condition, you still can do it, and you can show people how they can do it themselves. I was pretty disappointed from my generation in a lot of ways, because a lot of people working in the field of art from my generation just decided to quit. And I wanted to show them what it's like when you don't quit, when you keep on fighting. And it's going to be a hybrid animation with documentary. So we're keeping our fingers crossed, everything to work for the best.
Well, I look forward to hearing more about it and hopefully watching it very soon.
Thank
I
you.
next wanted to come to you, Charles, and ask you a little bit about your background as a Romany filmmaker who's been making films for a while now. I'm interested to hear a little bit about how you came into this.
I initially started when I was 19 as a photographer, taking photographs of bands who were big in Britain at the time. And from there, it was just, I was always interested in making films, but didn't really know how to do it. And then one day I just got a camera and thought, I'm going to try it. And that was 12, 13 years ago now. So from there, it just went from making my own short films, getting them seen by people liking them, and then continue making them. And for the past 4 years, I've been making films on and off with Traveller's Times, which 2 of those films have screened at Ake Dikea over the past 2 years. So yeah, that brings us up to date with how we're going with the films.
Thank you. And what about you, Vilma? How did you become on this path?
I started maybe 8 years ago with a film that was pretty ambitious. And looking back now, I think if I knew what I would go through, I would never do it. It was pretty big thing, 25 minutes long fiction film with Bulgarians and Finnish people, and it was one big Balkan mess. But it had a lot of success, and a lot of people liked it, and that's how I decided, to keep on working in the field. And with My Gypsy Road, this is my first documentary, so I hope that I can develop in both type of cinema, if I can say this.
Mm-hmm. And the final question that I wanted to ask you both is, how has your film been received? How have the audience felt about it? Vilma, I'd like to ask you first. How have the Bulgarian community received it, and the Romany community in Bulgaria, but also, of course, Natalia and her family?
Um, for now, the film's been doing pretty well. Outside of Bulgaria and inside of Bulgaria, a lot of people saw it, and it got a lot of awards, which means that it touches people, and it is able to send the message. Bulgarians cry a lot. Roma people in Bulgaria also cry a lot. They laugh and they cry, and I think that this was the idea, to say some pretty serious stuff, but through the smile. And I think that through these reactions, I get it that they understood exactly that we're talking about serious stuff, but with with a big sense of humor, because Natalia is such kind of person. She's everything. She's a bouquet of emotions, and I think the fact that the audience got this and has its own bouquet of emotions means that they understand the message. And yeah, so it's pretty well accepted by now. And I think it changes. A lot of people has come at the end of the projection just saying, thank you for this. We see the things now in completely different perspective, which was the main idea.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I feel like it's so important to highlight these narratives. And Charles, I'd like to ask you, how has the takings of Charlie Lee been received?
A lot of everybody who's seen it's really liked the film. I think one of the things that's resonated with a lot of people is sort of a young person from their community speaking about something from the past, but like I said before, not speaking about it in nostalgic terms. Especially older people who have seen it, they've appreciated the fact that there's a truthfulness to it. And I think a lot of that, a lot of the, sort of the truth about that kind of thing, especially talking about the past, is hard come by now, especially in films made in Great Britain about gypsies and travellers. They sort of created a narrative where they're talking about something that didn't actually exist, as opposed to people talking about the hardships of the times. So yeah, but people really liked it, and I hope people liked it tonight.
Mm-hmm. I think it really touched upon an important piece of history and a piece of history in British history that's rarely talked about. So to have these stories and for them to be projected into the world this way in an authentic way, I think is so important, especially for the younger generation like you talk about, because there is this tendency to see the old days, like you said, through these rose-tinted glasses, but to have the reality so raw as well, really just highlights the situation. But also I feel like more recently as well, in particularly with legislation that's coming out in Britain at the moment to criminalise trespass, a clampdown by the government on nomadicism, it seems this story was particularly relevant for this time.
Oh, absolutely. That's definitely played into it as well. The rise of Priti Patel in Great Britain really forcing through legislation to basically make it illegal to move around as a gypsy or traveller in Great Britain. We've got some hard times coming ahead. And, I feel films like what you've just screened and what I've just made can sort of add a point to that, so.
Absolutely. I'd really like to thank you both for joining us tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear more about your work, about future projects and your passions. So thank you so much. I'd like to give you both a round of applause. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Well, hopefully I'll see you all in person next year.
I really hope so. I really hope so.
The situation changes.
Yes, we can be together in person.
It will be great. Yeah.
Yes.
Keep up the good work. I'm really happy that the film was part of the festival.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For this Q&A, we'll also be having more Q&As throughout the week. Throughout this week, there'll be lots of interesting discussions with filmmakers. So we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Take care.